1. I've worked for dorms at my university for the second year now, and both have been during the pandemic. Last year I wasn't able to make it home for winter break due to travel health concerns, and spent a very depressing and lonely few weeks living alone on campus. This year I planned on going home, which requires a flight. I live 400 kilometers from campus, but in the same country. I would just like to say that I am great at my job. I've been rehired for another year. My student satisfaction survey is fantastic. And one of my students told another resident staff member that I'm the best person they met on campus. I do work that is not in my job description, and I'm friendly with most folks on the team. Essentially, I'm too good for them to fire me. The workplace overall is also pretty toxic, not due to the students or student staff, but the higher-ups. But that's a different story. However, this year my team got a new supervisor. Actually, many teams got new supervisors, as the previous ones went on to better positions or different schools, etc. This meant a lot of turnover, a lot of hiring, and clearly a good amount of desperation to find someone. If the new hires were anything to go by. Also, students working in dorms started end of August, and I didn't get a new supervisor until the end of October. While students work as floor monitors, etc., we have real adults working as higher-ups. They don't interact a lot with students, but manage the student staff and a lot of admin work, safety regulations, etc. I originally didn't have anything against my new supervisor. Sure, it was a bit of an adjustment, and frankly I knew more about my job than she did, but nothing was strictly off-putting. Then December rolls around. I did not have final exams after December 8th. So I did have a full month free to return home. That being said, they wanted staff to stay behind to support students and allowed the international students who would need time to quarantine, hadn't been home for a while, etc., priority in the request to leave. This made sense, and while I wasn't chuffed about it, I accepted, and I thought that was it. Oh no, my friends. Then I get to my end-of-term review. I'm told that I need to work on my professionalism. I'm not communicating with my students, and amongst other things that I should think about how my absence would affect my coworkers before requesting leave. My job description only included one more day I had to work in the time I had asked to leave, and my roommate, also a staff member, was more than happy to do my part as well, and in fact was probably angrier than I was that I didn't get to go home. All in all, there was a good amount of unwarranted comments about how I wasn't meeting expectations, such as in conveying workshop ideas to other staff members, which we had all done in a Google Doc. What was I supposed to do, sign and date them, email everyone that I'd done it? According to other members of my team, they weren't getting these comments, and I was quite upset, especially in contrast to my student satisfaction survey. By the time I return home, Omicron is much more concerning, and everyone living in dorms were being given rapid tests. My mother, who is a frontline worker, had multiple cases at her workplace, which made us concerned that I might not be able to travel. I sent a message to my supervisor about this, and I'm dismissed that we're unaware of any other staff member not being able to return, and essentially asking if I was returning or not. Remember that I had not been able to go home earlier because others were traveling internationally, and I had confirmed with other staff members in similar situations that they had in fact talked to their supervisors, who were apparently understanding. The next day, we got a long, official email about all the new procedures in our job due to the new variant, a minor outbreak on campus, etc. I take this as maybe my supervisor misjudged the severity of the situation, and we could have another chat. Boy, was I wrong. She decided to forward this email to me. Yes, the email that all staff members had received, she forwarded, and then informed me in the email, and these are exact quotes, "I'm still not sure I understand completely what the concern is regarding my mother having 10 cases at work, and that the expectation is that staff return to residence by a certain date and time to fulfill their roles. If you decide that you are not planning to return back to campus, we can discuss the exit procedure out of the job position." Now I'm livid. This is my last semester before I graduate, and I'm not going to keep dealing with this bullshit. She can't understand why I might be, I don't know, concerned for my health and safety, and the health of my students, my roommate, folks on the plane, and any other person living in dorms due to potential contact. Keep in mind, flights are actively being cancelled across the country at this time, and booster shots are slowly being rolled out, meaning most of the students on campus don't have it yet. After this ultimatum, I decided to quit the job on principle. Return on time or quit? Okay. I emailed the director, assistant director, community standards officer, and my supervisor's direct supervisor, saying that I was not able to return by the expected date, that I was leaving the team, was uncomfortable discussing this further with my supervisor, and including her messages to me in the screenshots. I didn't get a response for 9 hours, at 8 p.m. The response was the most non-answer email I have ever seen, saying that staff members would always want more information, and this must have been a difficult decision. They then asked if this was my official resignation. Apparently, it takes 2 emails for me to quit this job. I said it was, and I switched my flight, told my fellow team members and my students. On that note, if 30% of your students immediately respond to wish you well, tell you that you may not be at the job anymore, but you'll always be their friend, it might be a sign that your workplace should keep you. I didn't drop my students cold turkey. I said they could keep asking me questions or chatting through concerns, and they have. Clearly, they didn't think I was serious about quitting, thinking that I was just complaining and threatening, as in the next full team meeting I was assigned a leadership role for an event. They also probably realized they were in deep shit since only my team, which is only 10 people, the full team is around 100, was informed that I quit. I had an exit interview with the assistant director where I was told that while online communication doesn't convey tone, it was never an ultimatum and that, for future reference, aka in other jobs, supervisors would always want more information, and that this was always open for further discussion. Ma'am, I sent you the email. I told you that other staff members were treated differently, which the assistant director told me they weren't. But some staff members weren't back on campus. My other concerns about my supervisor were also dismissed, including when I told her that the other staff members, not the ones in my team, had brought concerns about my supervisor to me, including that she displays a grand lack of empathy. I don't interact with other supervisors on the team at all. I don't know anything about them. What the hell did she do? I'm free of this job, almost free of school, and I still have my other, much better job. Also, this workplace is so terrible and toxic that about half my coworkers find me to tell me something along the lines of "good for you, wish that was me, I'd quit too if I didn't need this job," etc. I eventually flew back to school, as they might be stupidly making classes in person again, and it was practically empty, which was so much better than flying back for the expected date over a weekend. Cheers. Thanks for the ultimatum. That somehow made me safer. 2. I was reminded of this recently, though the specific incident occurred almost 6 years ago. See, the company I worked for at the time had a tiered training system. Bronze tier meant you were qualified to do your job. Silver tier meant you'd gone the extra mile to really learn the ins and outs of the job, and could be used to train new people in your job. Gold meant that you mastered your current position, and Platinum was generally intended to be the stepping stone to be cross-trained in different departments. Typically, Platinum training in one department was roughly equivalent to half silver in 2 or 3 other departments. So, like being Platinum trained in repair meant that you could lend a hand in home installation and car installation, that sort of thing. Well, my store manager decided he wanted to get the bragging rights of having his entire Geek Squad department Platinum certified. So he started hounding us to do our Platinum certifications. Not actually giving us time to do them, mind you, because outside of Bronze the trainings were voluntary. The position that I held at the time, its Platinum level training, was intended to be a stepping stone into management, and as a part of that it included several transcripts from several books on management. So to be Platinum certified I had to finish 14 modules, with each training involved a 200 to 400 page reading assignment, followed by a report on the reading assignment to be graded by the manager, and also 4 one-on-one training sessions with the store manager on topics such as manpower management, customer reading, and personality conflicts. All in all, each module was estimated to take between 10 to 14 hours worth of work, before a further 3 to 4 hours of work with the manager. This was all something that the manager was apparently unaware of, because when I asked him where he wanted me to turn in the first report, he brushed me off saying the modules don't have assignments, only to have him come back 3 or 4 more times and get up on my case and the rest of my department's case about being platinum. But then inferring that he's not going to read the assignments and sign off on the modules, so do this training that I won't sign off on. Oh, and do it in your own time. Surprise, surprise. We weren't interested in wasting our personal time like this. So initially we ignored it, until he really started pushing the issue. Remember how I said each of the modules for the platinum training for my position has a 200 to 400 page reading assignment? Well, using the store's printer, I printed each one of them in color, actually did the reading for the first one and wrote the paper, and went to talk to the manager about the report. I hounded him for a week about it, until I was able to corner him and show him it was about the platinum training. He was totally caught off guard that he was expected to play school teacher, and visibly horrified that he would have to do so for 14 modules, plus 4 one-on-one sessions for 5 people. So that was the last we heard from him about everyone in the department being platinum. Remember how I printed out the readings? Well, that prompted an investigation to find out why the store had gone through more color toner in 2 months than it had in a year prior. They eventually found out the majority was from the platinum learnings. And when they asked why, we pulled out the multiple email messages the store manager had sent us regarding platinum, including the parts, where he said if we needed to print something we could use the store printers. Turns out most of the platinum modules just have a 2 to 3 page worksheet and maybe a checklist. Some have a 20 to 30 page resource document, but only the platinum for my department had 300 page books. 3. So this happened back around the end of 2018. I worked for a supported community living, SCL company. My day-to-day consisted of assisting clients with developmental disabilities perform daily tasks such as administering medication, toileting, transportation. But a major part of what I did was behavior de-escalation. Many individuals that were part of the IDD, intellectually developmentally disabled community, have behavioral issues that range from harmless to extremely violent. I sincerely enjoyed this part of my job. At times it was dangerous, but you would always learn so much from just trying to help them regulate their emotions. A behavior is just them trying to communicate a want or a need that they have. They just don't know how to use their words sometimes. On this particular day, the client that I was closest to had a meltdown. Punched holes in the wall, tore a blackboard off the wall, pushed over a large cabinet, stripped naked, threw fecal matter, the works. Mind you, this was actually pretty common for them, especially around wintertime, especially when they missed their family. Eventually, after 2 hours of trying on our own to calm them down, we had to call the police. When they arrived, 3 officers, 2 very kind ones, and then an arrogant bastard. My client came out sort of quiet and compliant. I knew from years of working with them that definitely was not a good sign. My supervisor also noticed, and we were told to watch out. The arrogant bastard stated, "We know how to do our jobs, ma'am." Cue malicious compliance. So I, being the dutiful citizen I am, shut my mouth, and my supervisor did the same. We watched the client edge closer as the officers were speaking to them. I should mention they were able to get the client to put on clothes before this. When they were within arm's reach, my client made their move. As fast as lightning, my client reached out their hands down into their pants and proceeded to slap the arrogant bastard in the face with their shitty hand. At that point, it was assault on an officer, so they swiftly cuffed them and sent them to a holding cell at the sheriff's department until they had calmed down enough to be released. Being part of the IDD community prevented them from pressing any kind of charges on my client, so they got off pretty easy. The arrogant bastard, on the other hand, ended up getting pink eye for 2 weeks. I found out later from a state trooper friend that he was pretty disliked in general, so it made for a good laugh for them as well. I understand some people might be concerned about my client's safety, and as part of the job, that was my utmost concern as well. In the area that I live, it is pretty rural, so most opportunities for employment are found either at a factory or an SCL company. The police in this area are actually very used to dealing with this community because of this. This was not the first time we had called them for this particular client, and one of them had actually transported this client to a mental health hospital for us previously. They just sent the wrong officer this time. 4. I used to work at a grocery store. It was in this smallish beachside community that had a lot of tourists and summer homes. Chose this store because they were all about finding long-time workers and had a little bonus and salary boost for those who finished the probationary period. I had just finished school and planned on taking a gap year. So, worked out well in my mind. I started about 2 months before summer and it was nice. I had a base of co-workers that worked well with each other, mostly middle-aged women and some pensioners. Found out quick the smoke break was for gossiping about the others, and sometimes I took part when clients pissed me off or other co-workers. Usual daily things. I was told from day one that the manager didn't give a shit about us because she was also a manager at a bigger store. The rule was if you had someone to cover you, it was fine to do whatever. Some took hour-long breaks, some drank during the job, but I was trying to make a good impression on my first job in that town, so I never did anything like that. Since I didn't have that much of a social life, I always changed shifts when someone needed, came in if someone was sick, even stocked the end shelves, which were the shift manager's job. When the pensioners asked in the middle of the day to change assignments because their back hurt from stocking, I was always okay with it. And they were really thankful. One of them, Lydia, was actually a neighbor and friends with my grandparents, so we used to hang out during lunch breaks, and she even comforted me when I had a panic attack. We used to ride home together on our bikes if we finished together. She kinda took me under her wing and used to call me her work granddaughter. Things kinda took a turn once summer started. Usually it was about 1,000 euros per 2 registers. Now it was suddenly 2,000 per 1. They also hired summer workers who were 3 16-year-old stock boys, one being the manager's son. Not to be an old-timer cursing the work ethics of children, but they were literally playing some tank games on their phone on the store floor while they had a cart of stuff they needed to put out in front of them. Not to mention the not checking of dates, shoving old stuff in the back and the new in front, not checking if the barcode matched the price tag's barcode. What really pissed me off was that they didn't flush and pissed all over the toilet seat. Management made it my job to clean after them. I was told I couldn't say anything to call them out, so it became my everyday duty to clean the toilets, because the cleaner only came in the morning. Then the self-service checkouts came. I was the only cashier there when the builders put them in. So it became my duty to train the others, including management and the 2 60-plus-somethings. Lydia took it easy. The old man literally refused to learn. So now every day either me or Lydia had to be in the store because the old man refused. It was also regular. He came in drunk and drank at work, and also used to hit on me a lot, but I brushed it off. So, a lot on my shoulders. Shit went down after I got my vaccine at the start of August. I had 2 days off. Figured I wouldn't get that sick because I had already had it. It was about a week or so before my probation period ended, so on Monday I felt terrible and called in. My first time during the whole time I worked there. Called in with the manager. "You have to come in. Lydia's already on vacation, and the only other one who knows is already sick. And you didn't give us proper notice." Try to argue that I have a fever of 39 and feel like shit. Nope, have to come in. So I get my shit together and go to work, scrubbing the toilet floor with a fever. Dealing with customers with a fever. Yes, I took more breaks. Most co-workers asked me why I looked shitty, and I told them I was sick. End the day and go home. Next day I feel even worse. Call in to say, "No, I'm putting my foot down, I can't come in." First time I took a stand and said I can't destroy my health. "Fine, you call Lydia and tell her. If she agrees, then you have to take sick leave." Okay, not really my job, but fine. Call her, woke her up, apologized profusely and told her the situation. She understood, wished me to feel better and hung up. I called my daughter and got on sick leave and then informed my manager, went back to sleep. Got a call a few hours later. It's Lydia. "You make everyone's life so difficult here. Come in and give your resignation." She isn't the manager, she is just a cashier like me. I asked WTF and she told me that they have been talking on the smoke break with all the shift managers and the main manager, and apparently they decided I complained too much about my health and about other workers. I asked why my manager didn't call me, no real explanation. I said if the manager wants to fire me, she'd have to call me herself. No call, so 2 hours later I call her myself, ask what's going on. It's true. I need to resign my position. I asked why they don't just terminate me. I'm still on probation. Can't, 'cause you're on sick leave. Doesn't really make sense. During the probation period, they can fire me with no notice, no reasoning. I'm fuming at this time. Fine. I'll come in with my 39-degree fever. Got on my bike, pedaled like 3 kilometers. Everyone is giving me dirty looks. Manager gives me a filled-out paper stating I quit on the day for personal reasons. I ask, so you can't fire me because I'm on sick leave. I need to resign? Manager says yes. It's too much paperwork to fire me and she doesn't have the time. Okay, deal. I take out a blank piece of paper, write my quitting date as 2 weeks from now, to, be polite, and give them proper notice. Manager was fuming and argued I can't do that. I said that's my time frame I need to give according to my contract. She was too lazy to argue more. I signed the sheet and walked out. Called my doctor the next morning and talked about my sick leave. A few days later, the manager calls me. Tomorrow is a big town fair. I'm definitely not sick anymore and can come in tomorrow. They're super short-staffed. I said that I'm on sick leave. She said I can't still be feeling shit and get into work right now. I told them no and reminded them that my sick leave ends on the day after my resignation date. She got super pissy and said that if I didn't come to work, she'd have to be on the register the whole day. To that I responded, well, have fun, and hung up. Spent the next 2 weeks on the beach on paid sick leave. Also, my probation lapsed, so they had to pay me the bonus. I did get my unemployment benefits with no problem, and a well-paying job not soon after that. Never going back to that shithole. 5. When I was in college, I worked for a mobile carrier in a mall. For a young person, it was great money. I was the assistant manager, which was a fancy way of saying I was in charge of most of the store paperwork. A few months before, one morning, I opened by myself and a guy approached me asking for a specific phone and kept balking at the price, asking if I could cut him a deal, though. I was confident we were by far the cheapest in the area, so I told him, you bring me a better deal, I'll beat it. The guy does another lap, talks to other stores and comes back. Come on, there's nothing you can do. Can I just get a case? I smile and say, sorry, that's the best I can do today. But can I get your number in case we get a sale that brings the price down? This sometimes actually did work. His entire demeanor changed, and he handed me the paperwork out of his bag and showed me his ID. He was from Corporate LP, Loss Preventions. Apparently, my store ranked top in the state for excessive discounts and excessive waste. He then hands me a document showing all of my friends and family discounts. So I flip open my phone, yes, it's still flipped, and showed him all the names on the list that are in my phone, thus our friends and family. He thanks me and says he'll stick around to talk to my boss and one other team member. Since smartphones aren't really a big thing at the time, the loss prevention guy starts talking to me about my job, and I ask him a little more about what exactly flagged our store. Turns out the other 2 people he wanted to talk to had more than 30% of their transactions marked with that discount code, and our store seemed to lose lots of inventory. Store practice was that if you open an accessory and it was damaged in shipping, you just throw it away and grab another one. Turns out there is a process you need to follow. He showed me the form and told me the figures we should be between each month to be considered average. He then interviews my boss and co-worker who couldn't prove that their discounts were accurate, and they were let off with a stern warning. From then on, I took on the responsibility of tracking inventory and warning the team when we were getting close to the monthly limit. Like a miracle, cases stopped breaking for the rest of the month with these announcements. I open myself again one morning. An older gentleman approaches me and starts screaming at me about being a heartless bastard and asking, how the hell can you do this to people? I look at him puzzled. Sir, I have no idea who you are, so you can't possibly be mad at me specifically. Let's go sit over there and have a quick chat. As soon as we sit down, I look at him and he starts crying and shaking. I know what you do. I'm gonna lose my house. He goes on to tell me that his son had gotten 10 free phones from my store, and the monthly bill was roughly $800 plus tax. Sir, if your son started an account with us, there is nothing I can do without him coming to the store. The dad shows me a photo in his wallet and explains that his son lives in a home because he's too old to take care of him. He's visibly disabled. He was already barely getting by paying for his house plus his son to be taken care of. My heart dropped as I figured out what had happened. My co-worker had sold the phones to his son while they were on a mall outing with his group home. Furious, I go back to the store and void the entire order. I instruct the dad to bring me every phone he can find. Anything not in the store that day would be marked as stolen. I write up the inventory report and mark all those phones stolen for the time being. Co-worker comes in and I say, "Don't bother clocking in, I saw your order form from last night. Just know that it's voided. If you pull anything like that again, I'll make sure you're fired. Take the rest of the weekend off." He argues for a moment, but leaves. 25 minutes later, and early for his shift, my boss shows up saying he heard what happened. I show him all of the paperwork and explain what I did to solve it. Irritated, he looks at me and says something like, "You know you can't do that, right?" He then argues with me that I had no right to void the order and that the contract was the contract. Confused and angry, I say, "Look, I will not sit by and allow people to be taken advantage of like that." To which he replies, "If you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave." Shocked, I walk back into the store where he tells me he is taking care of all the paperwork to fix my mess. Quietly, I rip up my inventory report with a smile and tell him I'm leaving for the day. I call a friend who said, "Why don't you just get an IT job?" What I was going to school for. He then calls a recruiter and sets up an interview for the next morning. Boss's little push gave me the drive to just go for it. I nailed the interview and get the job. My now ex-boss texted me shortly after and said, "Hey, P, you're late." To which I replied, "No, I don't like the way you do things there." Silence. Fast forward a few months. Both the boss and the co-worker were fired for theft. You see, with the unexplained missing phones and with no one watching inventory, loss prevention quickly took interest in the store again. Turns out the broken cases were actually team members giving away inventory to close sales. So when I was there balancing inventory and giving warnings, it was letting them know just how much they could steal and get away with it. Without me there, they just did whatever the heck they wanted. From what I hear, they were escorted out by security and all. So in the end, I was pushed to start the career of my dreams. They have a record. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 115. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do share it around to all your friends and family. And like, subscribe, and comment if you'd be so kind to do so as well. Alright, we do have a birthday shout out to today. The birthday was yesterday, but yesterday's video was done by the time I received the message. So, and this shout out goes to Josh. And Josh is 44, and he's a fan. So, happy birthday to you, Josh. I understand you are a fan of Revenge videos, so this is an appropriate video to put it in. I did do a shout out for Pam a little while back in December, and I'm sure I told her to make sure that you pampered her on her birthday. Well, now it's her turn to pamper you. So let's make sure it's a nice relaxing day for you, Josh, eh, bud? And before we go, I'd like to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Josh. Happy birthday to you. All right then, I think we'll wrap things up there for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.